we are sitting here now with Adam Savage of the Mythbusters. Adam, welcome back to the Skeptics Guide.
Thank you very much.
We had the pleasure of interviewing you at last year's TAM, and we were very excited to hear that you were going to be here again, and we have another opportunity to sit and talk with you. So how are you enjoying the conference so far?
Yeah, very much. And this is absolutely my kind of crowd.
It's good to hear.
Cool. Very good. Everybody is incredibly friendly and generous, and it's a mixed blessing sometimes being famous and having people come up to you all the time, but it's not at a place like this. Mm-hmm. At a place like this, making myself available and just keep continuing to foment exactly what people say they like about the show, which is the accessibility and how much they identify with Jamie and I. It's a real pleasure to do that, and people have been coming up to me. This is my third TAM, and people are coming up to me this year and saying that, meeting me last year was really great, and they've been talking about it all year, and they came back to meet me again, and that's thrilling. That's fantastic.
Awesome. You find you get good feedback for just your show from meeting your fans at places like this?
Yeah, it's funny. Of course, we get a lot of emails from people telling us that we screwed things up.
Mm-hmm. Really, we never get those.
Yeah, never. And I am absolutely positive that if I took an informal survey when I got up on stage, that probably half of the audience here at TAM has at one point or another yelled at me or Jamie at the television for being frickin' idiots. And yet, all of that goes out the window when they come up and say hello. There's nothing but goodwill, because I think they see the real intellectual honesty in even our screw-ups, that we're never trying to put anything over, and there's never going to be a man versus wild moment with us, which is, Discovery was right to say that was a problem with marketing more than the show. The show is just edited without the transparency that people have come to expect from, quote, reality television. And that kind of transparency, which we work really rigorously to bring to the show, I think surpasses any times when people think, oh my God, I can't believe they don't realize that tracer rounds aren't what they're using.
Do you find that hard, that transparency? Because the process is so artificial in that you're filming things probably out of sequence sometimes and splicing it all together, and if the final product is such a small piece of all the filming that you do, I'm assuming that's just the way it's usually done, that how do you keep that transparent when the process is so artificial?
That's a great question. One of the ways we do that is that Jamie and I are absolutely a key part of how every story gets told. Mm-hmm. There's nothing written down for us. There's nothing wrote. We do the intros and outros to the shows in what's called the blueprint room. We do that last, usually at the end of every episode. And those are the links that we, link between sequences. We don't know what those sequences will be until we try things. Mm-hmm. That's another way we maintain the transparency. Yeah. We start with a rough shooting script, how we think the experiment's going to go, but it rarely goes the way we think it's going to go. And we are constantly changing parameters based on, wow, I didn't realize that was going to be so difficult. Now we're going to need an extra day on location, or now we're going to need a different location. And that means that even though we might shoot some things out of order, usually it's painfully obvious demonstrations that we'll shoot out of order. Right. The fact is that we're involved in the whole process, so there is really a process. There really is a discovery happening on that day that we're firing things into ballistics gel or setting up our cannon.
Isn't it funny though? You have to actually say that, because so much of what we digest is fake. Completely fake. I mean, even all the they call them reality TV shows. Really, like what you do is an actual reality TV show.
Again, I'd say that it's a fuzzy line. We repeat. We do several takes of everything for different camera angles. For key discussions, we'll shoot a wide and cut in for inserts and do that. Jamie and I have, for better or worse, Jamie specifically. I mean, I have 5 years of acting training, but Jamie's gotten very good at appearing much more natural and much more genuine on camera, much to his chagrin. And see, the other thing is that because we're so involved in the process, we really know that we're telling a story. And there's a reality to the story that doesn't necessarily mean that it's cameras falling around getting 8 hours of footage per camera per day. Actually, our shooting ratio has gone way down because we've gotten much more efficient at telling the story than we used to be. It used to be they would have 40 hours of footage to cut 40 minutes. Wow. Now it's more like 20, 25 hours of footage.
Oh, that's great.
But, we are in, that story is a real story. And even though we might know how certain experiments are going to turn out, it's still a story we're totally interested in. Yeah. It's still something when we correctly were trying to demonstrate electricity's transfer through water recently. And in his classic style, Jamie was like, well, I'll just get a water pistol and we'll put some electricity behind it and we'll measure when it gets to, we'll put an oscilloscope on the ground and measure when it gets there. And of course, there's so much turbulence in the water, the signal is completely, it's impossible both to get a solid signal and because Jamie's holding this big water pistol, the distance is varying greatly. And it, I say this at the beginning, like, I don't think this experiment's going to work very well because of all these variables. And Jamie's like, well, I just want to try it. And he'll go and do it. And then after watching him flail for 3 hours, which is exactly what happened, I said...
Told you so.
No, I didn't. I said, you know what, but also realizing actually that this was a terrific example of how to boil out variables. Because then I said, well, look, what's our stream? Would you agree with me it's about 3/16? Okay, let's get some 3/16 clear ID tubing. Let's stick it in the ballistics gelatin at the source, and let's put electrodes in, first 2 inches away, then 1 foot, then 2 feet, then 3 feet. And then we did that, and the ballistics gelatin was giving us some funny readings, so we went out and got a leg of lamb, jammed it in a leg of lamb, got much, and all of a sudden, after like 4 separate attempts at this experiment, we had boiled away enough parameters to get a set of readings which actually were linear in their deterioration.
Yeah.
That's what we were looking for.
I just love the phrase, so we went out and got a leg of lamb. That's how you know you've got a great show on your hands, I think.
Adam, have you ever had a total failure of a show? Like, I wouldn't know how to describe it, but anything...
Nothing usable, nothing...
Yeah. That's a good question. We've had stuff where locations kicked our ass. Train suction, the idea of... it's very hard to phrase this. If you're standing on a train platform and the train goes by, it'll suck you off.
It'll do what? I'm sorry.
And it was very difficult to find anybody with a bona fide train platform that would let us use it with a real train. Let us try this. That took actually 1.5 years to achieve. As far as an experiment where things just went really south, I know there's probably been something where we filmed a bunch of stuff and it just never quite gelled into something and we had to abandon it. But it's usually within the first day of experimentation we realized that this actually isn't a story. And I don't think it's happened more than once or twice.
But it sounds like you show the process and not just the end result and pretend like that's what we were going for all along. But you kind of show that, this kind of evolved over time.
Well, and actually it's the thing that... it's the thing that's most satisfying is we're not going to stand by our results. We have data sets of 1 and less than 1 sometimes. And there's nobody that's emailed us and thanked us for the groundbreaking work in urban legend research we've been doing.
Yes, right.
But working scientists from every organization you can imagine have written to us and said, you're showing the scientific method for what it is, which is messy and confusing and deeply creative.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's an interesting point that I wanted to hit. We've been interviewing a lot of bloggers and podcasters, and a recurring theme has been interaction with the audience. And I think you guys you seem to do a really great job of it. How much do you think that your interaction with your audience has contributed to the show's success?
Well, it works on so many levels. It works on a level of the fact that for some reason, both Jamie and I, through 2 totally different paths, don't mind being ourselves on camera. But I, for one, when I'm doing a piece to camera, I very specifically think about my toughest audience, which is my wife. And I'll tell you, I get home at the end of the day, she really doesn't want to hear about the great time I had shooting things at the shooting range every single day. But if I really did have a particularly excellent experience with solving some problem, that's who I think about when I'm doing a piece to camera, because she's the toughest audience, and what she's interested in is not what I was doing, not even the parameters of what I was doing. She's interested in how thrilled I was by doing it. And so that interaction I'm having with the camera, which is very specifically when I'm trying to achieve some kind of real transparency to my thought process and my emotional process about doing this show, I recognize as key to people's involvement in what we're doing. It makes them realize that, they're not just watching someone tell them how things are supposed to turn out. Because, I've seen, but when we did the elevator, should you jump up just before the elevator falls? I had seen 4 or 5 different science shows attempting to show why it wouldn't help, including Bill Nye.
I was about to say I saw it on Bill Nye ages ago.
I love Bill Nye, but honestly, I didn't understand what was going on from watching his demonstration.
Did he use like an egg?
Yeah, he used an egg, and again, he didn't have a high-speed camera to show that the egg was jumping up at the last second.
It just sort of like flicked and yolk, and that's your head.
Precisely. And for us, getting a 10-story crack hotel turned out to